buy one, get one free. At $2.69 for two, that's a savings of up to 72% versus traditional grocery stores. Limit 3 free. How about yummy frosted cookies and cream Pop-Tarts? 16-count boxes are buy one, get one free. And there's no limit. Offers good through June 8th.
With double data from Walmart Family Mobile. For a limited time, get 40 gigabytes of high-speed data with a 10 gigabyte hotspot for under $40 a month. That's right, under $40 a month. No contract, no surprise fees, and it's all powered by T-Mobile's nationwide network. Walmart Family Mobile. Stay a step ahead.
20 gigabytes after July 31st, 2021.
That have ever been created. Anthems that have changed the way we think, changed the way we feel, and changed the world we live in. Open the free iHeart app and check out our Black Music Month playlist. Plus, incredible podcasts that explore the history and artistry behind the music. With hosts like Michelle Williams, Jeezy, Questlove, and more. Honoring Black Music Month on the free iHeart app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. We love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 3rd, 2021. Ronda Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we're kind of nervous about the West Coast out here. Just got through watching an alleged press conference out there at the Pac-12 conference. Charlton, USC just brought in Bob Baffert as an assistant trainer for the football team. So we know those boys start galloping and kicking up a little grass, but they got a little extra boost in their tank. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders, Charlton. All the needles that they use are clean and safe.
They're clean and safe. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, Big C. I don't know how you feel, but when I pause, it makes me feel good. But I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why should everybody care?
Well, Charlton, our veterans are always an important part of our society. But unfortunately, Charlton, when they try to assimilate back into society, they miss that camaraderie that they had when they were in active duty service, Charlton.
Yeah.
All the men and women that they enjoyed the comfort of being socially interactive with, Charlton.
Yep.
They get back into society and they find it much more difficult, Charlton. And unfortunately, it has led to over 24 suicides a day amongst our great veterans of the United States Armed Forces, Charlton. We as a country need to learn how to assimilate with our veterans, Charlton, to communicate, to socialize with them, to let them know that they're not alone, that they're not forgotten once that uniform comes off their back, that they're still just as important a part of society as everybody else. And we must do all we can as Americans to help them out and get them beyond those hurdles that they've led to so many horrific suicides, Charlton, over the past decades. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton.
Yep.
But we need everybody to give out some consideration to those great men and women who have served this country.
Very well said. That's why I love giving it out. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And you can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and they say, hey kid, as well as the home run king, Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping them put people back to work. Just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships are doing it, sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports as we rise and shine. Big C, there's a lot of good things going on in the sports universe. We have NBA basketball. They're tipping it off tonight, especially up in Portland. Also in Southern California, we will see what happens. Major League Baseball, they're still swinging the bat. It's all fair and level more. And some good old boys on ice are practicing some shenanigans. There's even talk of maybe a new football league starting in 2022. But I have been thinking about how people let others put things in their backside, Big C. Sometimes they don't know what they're putting in. Did you say after Medina Spirit let somebody put something in his backside or her backside, Big C, that same owner showed up at a Pac-12 conference, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Dalton is allegedly that he's going to be working as an assistant trainer with the USC Trojans football team here, Charleston, in the fall. So we will see what type of 40 times that these USC football players run. And notice any of them getting extra hairy, Charleston.
Yep.
Keep an eye out on them.
Keep an eye out for them. It's all fair and level war. Every time somebody puts something in your backside, it's not always good for you, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair and level war. Big C, I want to touch on some things that are going on right now in the world of Major League Baseball. And as we always do, the pitch hit deep. Right field, back to the wall, home run! And then the crowd goes nuts. And the women love seeing the long ball, and men love hitting it deep. It's all fair and level war. Major League Baseball, there's a lot of good things going on in the world of Major League Baseball, even though it's going to take a back seat, Big C, as it has no choice but to take a back seat to the world of what's going on in NBA basketball. Everybody is excited about basketball, but I want to just get some thoughts on baseball, how they keep up, Big C, and how they make sure that they're always going to be at the top of the mind when it comes to Major League Baseball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand that Major League Baseball has been around much longer than the NBA. And don't get confused thinking that everybody cares about the NBA. There are people that are baseball aficionados, Charleston, that understands all the dynamics of the game. They even take scorebooks to the stadium when they go to watch the game, Charleston. That's how into baseball that they are, because it's one of those games that you need to be in person to really understand it. So this is the reason why the attendance is slowly creeping back up in Major League Baseball stadiums, Charleston. The more they allow, the more will show up. But baseball really doesn't take a second seat. They call the boys of summer for a reason.
For a reason. Tonight's schedule, June 3rd, 2021, we have Washington at Atlanta down in hot Atlanta, Big C. Tampa Bay at the New York Yankees. Boston is at Houston, Big C, in H-Town. The Texas Rangers at the Colorado Rockies. Miami Marlins at Pittsburgh. Arizona Diamondbacks, they are at the Milwaukee Brewers, Big C. The Minnesota Twins are at Kansas City. Detroit is at the Chicago White Sox with your friend, the great Tony La Russa, Big C. It's amazing, Tony La Russa doing this thing no matter what people think. Cincinnati is at St. Louis. Seattle is at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. The Chicago Cubs out here in the Bay Area taking on the San Francisco Giants in the City by the Bay, and the New York Mets at San Diego. Big C, which one of those games would you be interested in seeing? I love watching games at Oracle Park in San Francisco, but there's a lot of good baseball games going on tonight, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, it all depends on who's on the mound pitching. You got to let me know who's on the mound pitching, who's out at the bat. I mean, baseball is synonymous across this country. It's all equal when you look at those parallels. But it all comes down to who's on the mound and who's out at the bat.
Who's on the mound and who's out at the bat. It's all fair and level where I love baseball, but I'd be remiss if I didn't get to the hottest topic of today in the sports universe, and that's none other than King James, Big C, LeBron James, and all the talk about will the Lakers do what everybody said they were going to do this year when the playoffs began, Big C. I know the good old boys down in Phoenix, Arizona, they have their own thoughts about what's going to happen in the world of NBA basketball. But we have King James. He's in Los Angeles tonight, and he's without his running mate, Anthony Davis. And could this be the night that LeBron James' season comes to an end? I don't know. In 2007, the great LeBron James, he led his underdog Cleveland Cavaliers into Detroit, Big C. It was a crucial Game 5 against the former champion Detroit Pistons. Despite their underdog status, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they managed to tie the Eastern Conference Finals at 2 games apiece. But a road win still necessary to steal the series. Cleveland needed his 22-year-old superstar to play the game of his life, Big C, to help carry them past the heavily favored Detroit Pistons. And he delivered. Will we see him deliver again, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm not so sure that, you're going to get that type of performance tonight. One of the things people keep forgetting about LeBron James is that Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah.
Okay? Regardless of James going 14 consecutive runs and not losing in the first round of the playoffs, Charlton, Father Time has never lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And when you talk about everybody was looking forward to the Lakers repeating, I don't think you're going to find 2 people in the state of Arizona that believe that, Charlton.
Yeah.
And everybody on the Phoenix Suns believe that they're the team of destiny right now in the West.
Yeah.
They've been hot. They've been taking it to the Lakers. They haven't sit there and whine when they've had players out of the lineup, and yes, they have. Chris Paul has been in and out of the lineup this whole series.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anybody crying for the Phoenix Suns talking about, well, there was out there key point guard that turned this team around.
Yeah.
They kept chugging along, Charlton. They've gone out there and they've taken it to the Lakers. They don't care if Anthony Davis is in or out of the lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't count on the 10-man unless you got an oil can to keep it going, Charlton.
That squeaky oil can.
Squeaky right now.
You got to squeaky right now. I feel that the Lakers are primed to get a win. When it's too hot, you just got to sit down by the lake and let it cool you off. But going back to when King James was 22 years old, think about what's happening to the nouveau reach players. The great Luka Doncic is playing down in Dallas, playing the role of J.R. Ewing for the Dallas Mavericks, BC. He grew up idolizing LeBron James at 22 years old. Now, he's the same age that King James was when he delivered his masterpiece against the Detroit Pistons. And on Wednesday, the Dallas Mavericks 105-100 Game 5 victory over the Los Angeles Clippers at Staples Center. He had a game that was eerily reminiscent of the one that put the 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers in the path of the finals. And the similarities are almost impossible to ignore. James dropped 48 points, pulled in 9 rebounds, dished out 7 assists. That's combined total of 64, Big C. Doncic scored 42 points on Wednesday, pulled in 8 rebounds, dished out 14 assists. That's combined total of also 64, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when we look at Luka Doncic, Charlton, he is one of the premier players in the NBA. I mean, a lot of people don't look at him as an exciting player because he's not a splash player, because he's not always hanging around the rim, dunking, Charlton, trying to look at a highlight reel.
Yeah.
But he's a quiet assassin. He goes out there and knocks down his points, and he keeps chugging along, Charlton. He's been injured throughout the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that hasn't deterred him in any kind of way. He is the bona fide leader of the Dallas Mavericks, Charlton. And, I mean, if you go out and ask the L.A. Clippers what do they fear the most,
yeah,
they say that white boy standing over there.
It's all fair and level work. And they're not talking about Mr. Baffert with those needles. It's all fair and level work. Be careful what they put in your backside. It's all fair and level work. The great LeBron James teammate scored just 61 points. Luka Doncic's teammate scored 63. When you think about King James scoring 29 of Cleveland's final 30 points, Doncic either scored or assisted on 31 of the Dallas Mavericks' 37 total field goals. So both games were played on the road, Big C. Both came in Game 5. King James, he toppled a former champion that had knocked him out a year earlier. And when you think about Doncic, he outdueled, which I did not really expect to happen, but he outdueled the great former NBA MVP finalist Kawhi Leonard and knocked him out earlier a year, Big C. Paul George and also Kawhi Leonard, I think they outscored Luka Doncic by 1 point combined, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you look at Luka Doncic, like I said, he gets, underwhelmed, Charlton, by the media and the fans because you get so used to watching these guys that make the highlight reels night in, night out because they play around the rim.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic just knocks the ball through the rim. And I think the last time I checked on basketball, that was the most important statistic, knocking the ball through the rim.
Yeah.
Helping your teammates get to open spots on the court to get a good look at the rim also.
Yeah.
That's what Luka Doncic does. The ball doesn't have to be in his hands all the time, but when it's in his hands, Charlton, he'll make a difference. It doesn't make any difference whether he scores or
Yep.
not, but he will get the ball in the position for somebody to score.
Yeah, he's always put it in the hoop, Big C, or helping somebody else score. The great Luka Doncic scored only 3 fewer points than the rest of his starting lineup combined. And most of their points were assisted by the great Luka Doncic himself. He's a young man, only 22 years old. King James did not win the championship in 2007, Big C, just like Luka may not win it this year. But think about this, Big C. This season is amazing. Even if Luka completes the upset of the Clippers, and they're going back home to Dallas to have a chance to do it, and they can come back to Los Angeles if they lose at home. But they have they got 2 chances to do it, and the Clippers got to get it done in these 2 chances. But I feel that the Clippers, they couldn't get it done at home, even when they had tied the score, and they just kind of let the Mavericks run away with it. I don't know what to say about Luka being as good as LeBron over the years, but he sure has a bright future, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, what makes somebody as good as another player, Charleston, is that the total statistics are how they look on the highlight reel.
Yeah.
I think it's the total statistics and producing a winner around you, making the players around you better. I mean, because when you look at LeBron, he's made, 14 trips, out of the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah.
He only has 4 titles, Charleston. I mean, that's a lot when you look at the careers of players. But he only has 4 with the number of runs that he's made to the finals, and I think it's been about 9. So, is that success? I mean, there's other players that have a lot more. He's the most notable player that we've had in the last 12 years in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's been the most marquee. Sometimes you just can't live on a marquee, Charleston. You got to live on production.
Yeah, well, I got the Lakers winning tonight. It's all fair and love and war. We will see what happens. I want to swing the ball over to the East Coast, Big C. You have the great Ben Simmons, Philadelphia 76ers. He challenged the great Seth Curry, the brother of Steph Curry, during an afternoon Call of Duty game. It was a session that they play these games, Big C. He asked him, can you score 30 points? Can you drop 30 points like your brother does on the West Coast and send the 76ers into the next round of the playoffs with the great Joel Embiid hurt, Big C? I guess he has a sore knee. But when you think about Simmons, he told Curry, if you could do your part and mess around and get a triple-double paying homage to Ice Cube, they would have a chance. And Big C, he got close enough, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he had a chance, Charleston. Ben Simmons, no, he didn't want that pressure on his butt, Charleston, because he was worried about the needle for Bob Bassett also.
Yeah.
Because he can't shoot. I mean, he can't hit the ocean from the lake. That's how bad he is. So he needed to put the ball in the hands of a shooter. And Seth Curry took the role, Charleston. I mean, you got to think about how many pickup games he's got his butt kicked in the backyard with his dad and his older brother, Charleston. And he had an opportunity to take it out on some grown men on the NBA court. And he did it last night in fine fashion during prime time, Charleston. But this is what the Sixers have needed. They needed another gun to come off the bench and knock down some points. And Doc Rivers found the right pistol last night.
Yep, you got the right doctor in town. Be careful what a doctor puts in your butt. It's all fair and level war, even if it's just the butt of a horse. The great Tobias Harris dropped 28 points and teamed up with Curry and Simmons to carry the offensive load with the great Joel Embiid out. Big C. Simmons had 19 points. 11 assists and 10 rebounds. Gave homage to the great Ice Cube drop of the triple-double, Big C, to help the top-seeded Philadelphia 76ers, who are still in the hunt for their place in a championship since 1983. Last I checked, there was a guy rolling around with an afro by the name of Dr. J. Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Dale Dawkins was a part of that team. Caldwell Jones, Bo Cheeks, Lloyd B. Free, Charleston, many great 76ers of that era. But, when you look at this team, I don't know if they have the championship pedigree without Embiid in the lineup, Charleston. I think that will hinder them as they try to move forward in the playoffs because there's some big men that they're going to face. But when you think about Harris and Curry last night combining for 58 points,
they're amazing.
That was getting the 76ers over the hump.
Yeah, that was getting over the hump, Big C. I'm sure they all enjoyed the Philly cheesesteak. Next time they should have the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. Big C, the 76ers, they needed all the scoring help they could get, and they were thinking about this young player by the name of a super sub, Tyrese Maxey. Maxey scored 9 points in the first half at a time when the Sixers needed some juice to keep pace with the Wizards, Big C. When I think about the great Russell Westbrook out of Louisville High School in Southern California by way of UCLA, he complained to the referees all night long, had 4 fouls through 3 quarters. That's not a good thing. Bill dropped 32 points. Westbrook dropped 24, but they just could not overcome even without the great mountain of a man, Joel Embiid. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, if he hadn't been shooting the bricks and complaining all night long to the officials, Charleston, maybe he could have concentrated more on keeping his teammates interactive in the game, Charlton, but you create a distraction when you're on the court, Charlton.
Yeah.
It doesn't always fare well for your teammates.
It doesn't always fare well for your teammates. It's all fair in Leavenworth War. So they bow out, and they had a decent season, but sometimes you just lose to a better team. Congratulations to the Philadelphia 76ers. Just what the doctor ordered, Big C, minus a needle. On a stage, when you think about a stage, there's no greater city for stages than the great New York City, Big C. In his first time on stage, the great Trae Young, they call him Ice Trae, Big C. He was already a star on the show, Big C, like Showtime in LA at times. And just like an actor on nearby Broadway, he closed his impressive debut performance in a bowed out in front of the Madison Square Garden crowd after making a long three-pointer in the final minute. And he told Spike Lee, put me in your next movie, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you got to look at the New York Knicks, Charlton. They were overachievers this year. Yes, they finished in the fourth spot in the Eastern Division, but were they really that good of a team, Charlton? I mean, all the stars lined up for them when it came down to the season and meshing out. I mean, they had the same record that the Hawks had at the end of the year. They just had the home court advantage in the head-to-head matchup, Charlton. But the Hawks were an up-and-coming team, Charlton. Once McMillan took over this team, Charlton, it was night day difference in the performance of the players. And they have some players on their lineup, Charlton, that have playoff experience. So they were not overwhelmed by the spotlight of being in the playoffs.
No, they were not, Big C. When you think about the great Trae Young, basically they call him Ice Trae, he closed it with 36 points, dropping 36 points at Madison Square Garden. I think 3 games in a row. Only the great Michael Jordan has done that, scoring over 30 back-to-back games or back-to-back games at Madison Square Garden. It's all fair in Leavenworth War. He had 9 assists, and the Atlanta Hawks beat the New York Knicks 103-89. And I have no words from the mayor said, don't come into this town doing all that flopping crap, Big C. And so Trae Young advised, he said, okay, I won't flop anymore, but he was dropping 3-point baskets as the Knicks got sent home on Wednesday night, Game 5. Clint Capella backed up his consistent. When you think about what he did, he's consistent, he's confident, Big C. He said from a day earlier with 14 points, 15 rebounds for the Hawks, who will play the top-seeded Philadelphia 76ers in their first trip to the Eastern Conference semifinals since 2016. And that series begins on Sunday. And I'm telling you, there's something about these young Hawks. They've been flying high in New York City, Big C. Your thoughts?
And I think if Embiid is not able to play, Charlton, they're going to do to Philadelphia what they did to the New York Knicks. They're going to go through that because they don't have anybody to counter Capella inside it. Capella's been in the playoffs many times, so he's battle-tested.
Oh, he's good.
And he's played against Embiid and everybody else in the league, Charlton. But he and Trae Young work so well together with that penetration and lob move that he has. It's going to be hell for the 76ers.
It's all fair and level war. In fact, Ice Trae Young, he never looked like a playoff rookie. He was hitting winning shots with 0.9 seconds left in the opener, averaged 29 points a game and 9.8 assists. The Hawks, when you think about Hunter, a lot of people don't pay attention to Hunter. He had 15 points. John Collins had 13. So they're not leaving Trae Young out there to do it all on his own. It's all fair and level war. So the rumor that people had heard about coming out of New York City, they were saying that New York was being invaded by a bunch of birds coming up from the south. They were called the Dirty Hawks, Big C, like the movie from Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds. These birds were shooting 3-point baskets, and they just shot themselves past the New York Knickerbockers. And I'm telling you, if people don't respect what they are, Big C, they're still a young team down in Atlanta, Big C. Your thoughts?
Charlton, they're unflappable, no pun intended, but, this is a team where you get 46 points from your front line, and you got a great guard like Trae Young, and you got Gallinari knocking them down from 3 coming off the bench, Charlton, as well as Bogdanovic. This team is hustling. McMillan has them on the right track. Yeah, he has them on the right track. It's all fair in Leavenworth. And please don't allow people to hunt Hawks down in New York City. I don't know if they're part of an endangered species or not, but I'm sure there's a lot of restaurants that are looking for hawk meat. It's all fair in Leavenworth. I want to also talk about this great player for the Utah Jazz near the Wasatch Mountains, the great Donovan Mitchell. He hasn't stopped thinking about the Utah Jazz when they blew a 3-1 lead, Big C, to Denver in last season's playoff. The great Donovan Mitchell dropped 26 of his 30 points in the first half, Big C. The Jazz advanced to the second round of the playoffs. They beat the Grizzlies 126-110 on Wednesday night. The great John Moran is good. Brooks is going to be good, but they were just no match for the much more schooled Utah Jazz, Big C. Your thoughts? Well, you think about the one game that the Grizzlies won in this series. Donovan Mitchell did not play.
Yeah.
He's played the last 4 games, and they shut out the Grizzlies in those last 4 games, Charlton. This guy is a bona fide leader. He is the pseudo factor of the Jazz.
Yep.
You got Rudy Gobert controlling the middle. He knows how important Donovan Mitchell is to the team.
Yep.
Ingles can knock him down from the outside. They have a lot of length and a lot of speed. And so when you look at this Utah Jazz, and I know you all throughout the season, you didn't like them because they were the best seed in the West, Charlton, and they've proven that in the playoffs. They've only dropped the one game.
Yeah, they have only dropped the one game, and I don't know if they'll come out of the West, but they are a very good team. And when you think about what they talk about, this way they get along with each other, Big C. Not everybody does, but he said it's fun to play with Donovan, the great Rudy Gobert said, who had 23 points and 15 rebounds for Utah. Jordan Clarkson dropped 24 points. Bogdan Bogdanovic, Big C, added 17 points to help power the top-seeded Jazz to their fourth straight victory. And even after a cool fourth quarter, the Jazz shot 53%, Big C. Memphis, the big three, they all played effectively, I think, on the offense, but got a little bit of help from the supporting cast, the great Ja Morant, who's going to be a rising star in the NBA. He finished his record-setting first playoff series with 27 points and 11 assists. The great Dillon Brooks out of Oregon, Big C, also dropped 27 points, and Jonas Valanciunas added 18. So Memphis is in a good position for building on what they have, but they just came up against an older team that has a lot more experience, Big C. Your thoughts?
So they came up against the best team in the West, Charlton.
Yeah, well, some people feel so, but it's not over until it's over. But I do know that they are a very good team. I want to, before we come up on the Big C pause, I know everybody has their own thoughts about who's going to win what game in the NBA, what team is favorite in the NBA, what player will turn out and play the best basketball in the NBA. But I know we have a lot of things tonight that everybody's looking forward to. And especially when you think about some of the marquee players, Big C, in the league. You look at the Portland Trail Blazers at home tonight. Denver leads the series 3-2. Dollar Dame dropped 55 points when he was in Denver the other day. I don't think he's going to get 50.
They did not win.
They did not win, so he's not going to put up 55 again tonight in Portland. Just not going to happen. They need some other help from his players, and I don't know if he's going to get that. And it seems like Denver, they're not that flashy. They're not that talented, it seems, but they're consistent, and that might put a lot of heat, if that makes sense to you, on Portland tonight. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, see, that's my point. When you're a fan, you're looking for flash and excitement, Charlton. When you're understanding the game, you're looking for the nuances of the game that makes the game good and players consistent. And that's what Denver brings to the board, Charlton, is the nuances of the game, where they're consistent team players. They look to get their teammates an open look at the basket, Charlton, and that's what Jokic does all the time. Dame will shoot the ball. Yes, he's a highlight reel waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah.
But as he's a highlight reel waiting to happen, he got other teammates sitting around, Charlton, watching that highlight reel also, so they don't always stay in the ebb and flow of the contest. And that's what happens when everybody's out there trying to knock down threes instead of penetrating the lane and kick it out for a assist.
Yeah, he got to get some help from Kamala. And when you see a lightning strike, when the lightning strikes, oftentimes people stand around and look. And when you're striking for 55 points, there's a lot of guys standing around looking, and that can't happen. Also, Portland cannot be outshot at the free throw line more than Denver at the Motor Center's all-friend level war. But the biggest game...
That's when you don't go to the basket.
Yeah.
When you're out there and you're living on the arc, Charlton, you're not going to get many calls from the officials as far as getting fouled. But if you go to the basket now, you're going to spend more time going to the free throw line.
Yeah.
That's something that Dollar Dame doesn't like to do. He wants to be on that spectacular highlight reel, knocking down a 37-point three-point shot instead of going to the rim, Charlton, getting it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, sometimes getting it the old-fashioned way, like getting milk. You got to milk the nipple of the cow to get the milk the old-fashioned way. Nowadays, you just go to the store and buy all the milk you want. It's all fair and level war, Big C. Speaking of buying milk, there's nothing better than a fresh glass of squeezed milk, no matter what udder you get out of Big C squeezing the milk. It's all fair and level war. There's a lot of milk being needed in the city of Angels tonight, Los Angeles, California. Staples Center, home of all the movie stars, the biggest star of them all. His name is LeBron James, out of St. Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's High School in Ohio, Big C, and went right into the world of the NBA, and he's been a superstar ever since he showed up. He even has a movie coming out this summer. It's all fair and level war. The Lakers are at home. Just what you need when it's too hot. You need to jump in the lake, Big C. Whether Anthony Davis plays or not, it's a 50-50%. They call that a game-time decision. If it's a game-time decision, he's probably going to play. If you don't play tonight, what are you waiting for, Big C? I do think the Lakers will find a way to go down into the paint and pull out a win. I think they'll also get a little bit of milk delivered to them by the way of home cooking. If that happens, I think we'll see Game 7 in Phoenix, which makes sense for the NBA. But sometimes things happen that don't go on script. Give me your pitch. Is Paul going to play tonight? Is Davis going to play tonight? It doesn't really matter. The team that goes inside and pounds the ball has a better chance of winning this game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you said it earlier in your analogy that the Lakers are going home, Charlton. That's what you said. But I don't think that they can keep pace with the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are not, in awe of the Los Angeles Lakers, Charlton. The speed of the game right now is in favor of the Phoenix Suns. Those young legs are moving up and down the court.
Yeah.
And they have no answer for them, Charlton. Right now, the Phoenix Suns are a bad matchup for the Los Angeles Lakers. You saw in the last game where LeBron gave it his best shot in the third quarter and realized that wasn't enough, even with him knocking down 17 points. So he made an early exit in the game, Charlton, halfway through the fourth quarter to go get some rest.
Yeah.
Because he knew that this game would be coming back to L.A. tonight, and he was going to need more of an effort than what he had in that first game.
Yeah.
The biggest problem, Charlton, is that the Lakers don't have the outside shooting game. That's where Phoenix has a huge advantage. And when they try to extend the defense to go out and cover those outside shooters, Charlton,
yeah,
you got Ayton on the inside shooting well above 75% from the floor. So this is a big problem. Carroll has been a defensive menace also against the Lakers. So they, LeBron James, you can let him get his point. And if I'm Phoenix, I'm saying, LeBron, go get yourself 40, because the rest of the guys on your team may not get 50.
Yeah, it's all fair and level world. I think LeBron James left early so he could get the Big C burger. It's a tasty burger. He knows it comes with exotic meats, and they need those exotic meats tonight. It's all fair and level world. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk about a game that's played on ice. And also, when you let people give you a massage, you got to make sure that you're doing it safely. It's all fair and level world. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3. Let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will see them pop up all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. Big C on ice. A lot of good old boys doing their thing on ice. In the NHL National Hockey League, they're looking for Lord Stanley's Cup. Jasper Konatomi, Big C, and Eric Stahl. They scored early goals, and Montreal beat the Winnipeg Jets by the score of 5-3. On the Wednesday night in Game 1 of the second round series victory. You have Nick Suzuki and Brendan Gallagher also scored from Montreal. Edmondson and Jeff Petrie each had 2 assists apiece. And then Carey Price made 27 saves. Adam Lowry, Derek Forbear, Kyle Connor scored for Winnipeg, and Connor Hellebuck, Big C, stopped 28 shots. Fans were actually allowed inside the Bell MTS Place. For the first time this season up in Canada, the Manitoba governor said that 500 fully vaccinated health workers could attend as they watch the good old boys skate around on ice. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's that time of the year up north of the border, Charlton, and the Montreal has been hot.
Yeah.
Charlton, when you think about the halves, Charlton, they took out the Toronto Maple Leafs in 3 consecutive games. Now they won their 4th consecutive game last night in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Charlton. And this is a team that's hot. And when you can get hot on the ice this time of the year, Charlton, you can have your opponents wilting.
So how do you deal with it when they skate around on ice? You know the blades get hot. You never notice them melt the ice and fall through the ice. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they bring that Zamboni out there and put a new sheet of water out there, and it freezes up right away. But, the halves have been doing what's needed to be done, Charlton. I mean, Winnipeg had to pull their goaltender late in the game.
Yep.
They got a couple empty net goals, Charlton, to secure the victory.
Yeah, got the victory done. It's all fair and level. Where also Mikko Rantanen, Big C, found himself in the middle of an ice storm from when teammates were scoring the winner. Big C, Rantanen also scored a power play goal with 2:07 in overtime. And Grubauer outdueled fellow Vezina Trophy finalist Marc-Andre Fleury in the Colorado Avalanche, but you still cannot see Avalanche games in Denver. It doesn't make any sense. but they beat the Las Vegas Golden Knights 3-2 on Wednesday night. They take a 2-0 series lead in their second round playoff series, chasing Lori Stanley's Cup. It was Rantanen's second career overtime winner in the playoffs, and the first came in a Game 5 victory over Calgary, April 17th, 2019, in a first round series. They're playing really good hockey on the ice. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Golden Knights have been in a deficit the entire series, Charlton. I mean, when they played the first round, they were down 2-1 in that, and they had to fight back to get that 4-3 victory, Charlton. And now they're down 0-2 in this series. I don't know if they're going to have enough energy to come back. But hockey has been ever so exciting when you think about this game going into overtime.
Yeah, there's a lot of good old boys that can throw over their opponent, run right into them as opposed to stop at the goal. And there was a player that had to get carried out on a stretcher last night. It's all fair and Levin Ward. Hockey's a tough business, Big C. It's a tough game. And so what I want to compare real quick is when the NBA has a flopping call and guys get hit and they fall over like they were hit by Mike Tyson, Big C, and they're looking for the foul. You get hockey players that actually get hit, knocked off their feet, sometimes spun around, and they hit the ice, and then once they get their senses together, they come back and keep playing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this hit last night, Charlton, was on an empty netter, Charlton, when he came down and speared him in the forehead, Charlton.
It was bad.
And he was unconscious before he hit the ice. I mean, there's a difference about the agony of the NHL versus the sissiness of the NBA. When, the NBA has a rule in against that flopping, but they never enforce it, Charlton. They allow the players to take these egregious acts too far and call technical fouls on their opponent when they know that somebody's cheating to get this call.
Yeah.
So if the NBA did what the NHL does, what the NHL Charlton will go to the replay booth, and they will look at it automatically when there's a questionable call being made.
Yeah.
And they will come back after the play and inflict a penalty on a player.
Yep.
The NBA does not do that, Charlton. They let people get away with too much, and that's why we see a lot of disparity in the league.
I would say for the NBA, if a guy is intentionally flopping, they'll show the replay of the elbow never hit him when he falls to the ground. That should be a technical on that team. That's just my opinion. And speaking of women that do it right, the Wnba schedule on a beautiful June 3rd, 2021, Thursday night, you have Las Vegas at New York. Chicago's going to play at Phoenix. And you have Indiana at Los Angeles, Big C. It's all fair and Levin Ward. We're wishing the ladies nothing but the best as they try to put the ball through the net. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we're in the same scenario there we are with baseball. Got to know who's knocking down the points, who's leading the team, and what their records are.
Got to know what they're doing. It's all fair and level. Where I want to bring you to a game that everybody loves. The pitch, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run. Everybody loves the long ball. Girls dig the long ball, and men love hitting it deep. It's all fair and level. War Major League Baseball. The defending world champion, Los Angeles Dodgers. They hit it deep last night, Big C. They hosted the Cardinals out of St. Louis on Wednesday night at beautiful Dodger Stadium at Chavez Ravine, Big C, in Southern California. The Cardinals managed to grab a quick lead with a run to the top of the first. But think about what happened, Big C. Those good vibes for the road team, they would not linger for long, Big C. Maybe the same way they won't linger for long tonight for the Phoenix Suns, Big C. The Dodgers put on a whooping 11 spot on the Cards in the bottom half, and that's a lot of hitting of the ball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you're on the road and you get on the board first, I mean, you're always elated as a baseball team.
Yep.
But the Dodgers' bats came alive last night in Chavez Ravine, and nobody could miss a ball that was coming towards home plate, Charlton.
Yep.
One after another, the Dodgers reached first base and ended up at home plate with an 11-run first inning.
Yeah, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. They were doing their thing last night at Chavez Ravine. And one might recall the Dodgers scoring 11 runs in the first inning. It was Game 3, Big C, of the 2020 NLCS. Generally, franchise records are reserved for regular season play. However, this is a record for the Los Angeles Dodgers based on Major League Baseball stats. The previous LA record for runs in an inning, it was 10, Big C, which they pulled off on June 28th. It was 1969. And I think if the LA Lakers see how hard the Dodgers play, even though they fell behind, that might inspire them for a win tonight, Big C. The franchise record is 15. 15, Big C, which happened when they were the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1952, and that was by Eric Steffen, Big C. Also, the great Cody Bellinger had 6 RBIs in the inning that set the Dodgers franchise record, and there's been a lot of Hall of Famers playing for the Dodgers, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the team loves to get 6 RBIs in any inning, but Cody Bellinger doing it by himself, setting a Dodgers record. Cody Bellinger has been consistent in his 3 years with the Dodgers, Charlton. He's always been hovering around that MVP conversation, Charlton, and he'll be there once again this season.
Yeah, he'll be there once again this season. It's all fair and level, where I love all the sports going on in the sports universe. It's a great time of year. It's getting hot. Please, people, stay hydrated. Be careful of what you allow people to put in your butt, no matter whether it's your doctor or a friend saying, hey, I got something that can make that pain go away. It's all fair and level, where I think we'll see some good basketball tonight at the Staples Center. But I wanna take the time to get away from the hardwood, Big C, and I want to get onto the football stadiums. And I want to bring up something that I was talking to a friend about today. And when you think about massage, I think everybody's had massage. I've had many massages in my lifetime. My first massage came from an athletic trainer playing football. But when I think about football players, the problem, and it's just my opinion, no one has to agree with it. Everybody has the right to their own opinion. I think the problem in the Deshaun Watson case, it goes beyond Deshaun Watson being a star quarterback, an African-American quarterback. I don't think any Caucasian quarterback has been accused of getting too many massages. Just a thought, just a side note. But when you think about it, he had a sparkling reputation and enormous power in an industry regulated by a lot of people who want to see the money flow in no matter what team you're on. He had a lot of hidden corners of the sports world, misleading and imprecise information, shared with the public, a long overdue conversation about what is consent. Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, he just got out of some legal trouble because his paycheck was big enough, Big C, down in Florida in those massage parlors. Okay, whatever they were doing, it was considered illegal enough to have charges brought against him. But when he has the right skin color and a big enough paycheck, those charges can go away per that district attorney, Big C. But what is it about consent that maybe Watson has working against him, if that makes sense to you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I don't know if this is even a case about consent. I mean, consent. When you look at the parallels of this, even against somebody like Robert Kraft, Robert Kraft was caught on tape dealing with an illegal act, Charlton, on multiple occasions.
That's right.
And you know, he had the power of attorney, Charlton, to get this thrown out, to know the judge. They would live in the same area, probably the same neighborhood.
Yep.
So is there justice or injustice in America, Charlton, when it comes down to this? They were seeking to file criminal charges against Robert Kraft. We've never heard of any criminal assault charges against Deshaun Watson.
No.
All we hear is civil. And I have a hard time piecing together a civil suit, Charlton, when you said that somebody committed a criminal act, but you don't want to have them charged with that.
Yeah. And it's like anybody who gets a massage. If you get a massage, I mean, they have them. You can go into a grocery store, and in that parking lot they'll have several different businesses, and oftentimes there's a massage parlor right there. But most people can have them do it out of their own home. I mean, I'm not knocking any woman that says anything, but I know sometimes people do what they can to get some extra cash, especially when they say nothing happened, but something may have happened that made me uncomfortable. I don't know what happened, but I know Robert Kraft was on videotape, and he's still the owner of the New England Patriots, and they're still trying to say as the NFL, we're going to wait to see if the NFL decides to fine Deshaun Watson for whatever happens in that case, Big C, and there's no videotape or audio tape, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, the NFL right now is in a real quandary when it comes to that. You know, when you had the nationwide publicization of Robert Kraft's incident, Charlton, in and out of court, and the dealings that they dealt with on that. And he was allowed to attend every scenario throughout the season. There was no game suspension that was put on Robert Kraft. There was no fines put on Robert Kraft. So if the league looks at Deshaun Watson any differently, and Robert Kraft, his was an alleged criminal incident.
That's right.
We haven't had that with Deshaun Watson.
No.
So I'm really curious how the NFL will handle this in their race norming, way. And that's all this is. This is race norming.
Yeah.
Because the white race is getting a pass. The black race is being criminalized for non-criminal allegations.
Yeah, and I ask every one of my white brethren in the media, when they say, I even hear people in Northern California saying, I can't believe, why would a guy who's rich need 22 masseuses? I don't understand. Why couldn't he just have one or two? Well, when you're rich and you travel, you have more options than a guy who's broke, working 9 to 5 or just getting by. And some people say, why would a rich guy have 10 cars? Can he just get by on one car? I don't understand. Something's wrong. Why would a man have 10 automobiles? There are guys who have 20 automobiles. It doesn't make them bad. But I want to close on this because it's important. I'm African American. You're African American. I've gotten massages from my insurance company. Will pay for a massage. I've also had my own private sessions throughout my lifetime, Big C. But at the same time, when the whole world can try to say, why would he have 22 masseuses? That makes him look guilty. But a white man who's on videotape doing an illegal act that they have to go to the court to throw it out and say, you really didn't see what you saw. They're saying he's okay to own a football team, and they're threatening to take away a black man's career based on allegations. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's why I have the problem at Charlton. I can't see anybody using 22 different masseuses in the same city you live at. You may go through 4 or 5 to find one that you just cannot do without, that they know how to get rid of the aches and pains from your body perfectly, Charlton. But to have 22 that you're sampling that many, Charlton, I have a problem with that large number that you're going through with that many different individuals. That means that somebody's not a professional masseuse, Charlton. So the number right off the back of 22 is what gives me cause and caution to think that there's something wrong and fishy about this scenario, Charlton, because I've never heard of anybody, professional, non-professional, or whatever, having 22 different masseuses in the same city.
It's called compiling, Big C. You didn't hear that from Watson. You heard that from some media, some mainstream media. Oh, yeah, 22 different women. I know athletes that have 22 different women in a month, and they do whatever they want to do with those women. That's because women flock to those men. And people know that's true. When I first started working in sports, there were so many good-looking women that were just outside of their locker rooms in different cities, and they're there to try to meet somebody that's going to make their life better, or just to say, hey, I hooked up with that famous guy on TV. And women know that's true, but men, you got to be careful, as well as women got to be careful. I'm not trying to shame anybody, but you got a white man on tape, and they said, you didn't see what the tape showed you. He got off because he's white and because he had money. And they're trying to destroy a black man's career, and no one's seen anything on tape. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's as simple as that, Charlton. It's not difficult. I mean, it all depends on which color you are when you're broadcasting this.
Yeah.
We've heard the white media forget all about Robert Kraft's indiscretions, Charlton, down in Jupiter, Florida, when he was going in and out of the massage parlors and won the same day of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, and no one says, well, he was wrong and he shouldn't have went in there paying these women for sex and all of that, and they got it recorded, but he had a good friend that was a judge that threw it out.
Yep.
When it came to Deshaun Watson, a black man, it's like, how dare him take advantage of all of these women?
Yeah.
My biggest problem, like I said, there's 22 alleged incidents of different individuals, Charlton, so it may have been more alleged incidents that occurred. But why did you keep going back? That's what I'm saying. And if these incidents did occur, and I'm not saying that they did or they did not,
right?
What happened to this thing called law enforcement for them to form an investigation, to go down and file a criminal complaint, not a civil suit saying I want $100,000 because what you did to me was that's what I'm worth.
Yeah. Well, if somebody puts something in my backside that I don't want in my backside, I'm not saying, hey, I need $100,000. Somebody put something in my backside I didn't want there. No, you file a criminal complaint, and that has not happened. That's a clue, America. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, NFL football, Baltimore Ravens owner, Steve Biscotti, he's been searching for a way, and I think it's a good thing, to properly salute the great Ozzie Newsome. Since he stepped down as a team general manager 3 years ago, Biscotti, he came up with an idea that not only impacts the lives of Baltimore residents and students, Big C, but also touches on Newsome's childhood. Biscotti said that he and his wife, they're making a $4 million gift in Newsome's name to Maryland's, his historically black colleges and universities. That's so powerful, Big C. The Ozzie Newsome Scholar Program will fund scholarships for Baltimore City public school graduates who attend an HBCU in Maryland. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, that's a wonderful gift, because when you talk about the children are our future, Charlton, this is what Biscotti is doing in recognition of Ozzie Newsome's name, Charlton. When you think about this, so many disadvantaged inner city children, Charlton, that cannot afford an education, but they have the academics to get there.
Do it, yeah.
This is going to help so many lives, Charlton, get out on the right path. To be able to go to college fully funded and not have to worry about their tuition. Now, I praise Mr. Biscotti for doing this in the name of Ozzie Newsome to fund these HBCUs that are in the Baltimore area. There are actually 4 HBCUs in Maryland, Charlton, that will be receiving direct benefits from this donation from the Scotty family.
Yeah, that's a good thing, Big C. It's nice when people do good things because they want to do good things. I want to touch something on Black history, and it's a lot what Deshaun Watson's dealing with and what Bob Kraft dealt with. Bob Kraft was a white man, and he wrote a check, and he had a judge who's probably been to the same massage parlor, being honest with you, and they let him off because, oh my God, if we don't get him off, then they might have videotape when the judge was in the massage parlor. You can Google it. It's all fair and level war, Big C. But I want to read something. It's about Black American history, and it's something every man of color, you got to pay attention to. Just because life is a little bit open now, it doesn't mean everybody wants you to have things. We just talked about Maryland, Big C, and the scholarships that are being paid for by Biscotti, Big C. Maryland passed its first law banning interracial marriage in 1664. On September 20, 1664, Maryland passed the first anti-amalgamation law that was intended to prevent English women from marrying African men. Interracial marriage was a fairly common practice during the colonial era among white indentured servants and the black slaves, as well as more aristocratic circles, Big C. People interacted with whoever they wanted to, especially in Northern Africa and Europe. People miscegenated and amalgamated all the time. But there were laws passed to stop that, Big C. And I'm telling you what's going on, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, but I doubt it. I'm not wrong about history. I may be wrong about what's going on in this case with these 22 allegations. For the most part, those women are Caucasian. That's a clue. For the most part, they try to hide the identity of those women. That's a clue. They put a couple of them out there, and that's a clue. But Emmett Till was murdered because some white boy said he was whistling at a white woman. There's always been this push against miscegenation. Most black men, for the most part, when they're interacting with a Caucasian woman, is that woman that chooses that relationship. Because in America, she has more white men to choose from. And I'm telling you, as an athlete, they flock to the black men, and that's just a fact. People don't have to like what I'm saying, but it's true. They find out who you are, they Google who you are, they Google how much money you make, and they find a way to meander into your life. And some guys don't know that they're being set up. That's just my opinion. But that same thing banning interracial marriage, the laws that still punish black men when they are accused by a white woman of a crime, more so than when they're accused by a black woman. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, tell me this. When did they pass a law that slave owners could not break their slaves?
Never.
That's where I am.
Never. That's very well said. And we've been honored some of those guys as called, quote-unquote, great presidents. It's all fair in love and war. They're doing a sham on Deshaun Watson's reputation, but it's not the first time they've done it. I want to touch on the United States Football League, Big C, the most popular spring league in football, emerging as a viable competitor to the NFL in the early to mid-1980s. Nearly 40 years later, and the USFL is planning to make a major comeback. But do you want to buy tickets for another USFL comeback, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, this is not about buying tickets for a USFL comeback. You think about the XFL. It would have lasted, Charlton, if not for the pandemic. That's the only reason it went away. You have to understand there's legalized gambling now in every state in America. This is what will fuel that league's success.
Yeah.
And that the USFL was a success, Charlton, until your buddy wanted to become an owner and screw up the league, and the rest of his hair fell out at that time, Charlton. USFL, you got to think about when it folded, Charlton, what the USFL did to the NFL. That following year, Charlton, 15 former USFL players made the Pro Bowl. The year after the league defunded itself, Charlton, and defuncted, they went to the NFL, and 15 of those players, Charlton, made the Pro Bowl the following season. You talk about competitive talent.
Yeah.
The USFL had competitive talent to the NFL. Not only that, Charlton, 3 starting quarterbacks in the USFL went on to be Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So when you want to talk about the talent level that was in that league, Charlton, it was equal to the NFL, and it will do it again, and it will survive because gambling will make the league survive, Charlton. Vegas, New Jersey, all these other states, Pennsylvania will make sure that this league survives because you got all these online betting sites now, Charlton. It will generate huge amounts of revenue across the country.
Yeah, it's all about how people generate revenue. The USFL making an announcement is reemerges Thursday with a return to the spring of 2022. There's a thing called burnout. You can have burnout if you do too many things too many times Well, not everything can be burnout if you do it too many times. If that makes sense to you, Big C, it's all fair level war. But the league plans a minimum of 8 teams for its first season and will retain rights to key or original team names like the New Jersey Generals, Philadelphia and Baltimore Stars, the Memphis Showboats, Big C, and the Los Angeles Express, which is where Steve Young cut his teeth in pro ball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yes, he cut his teeth there, Charlton, as well as many other players. When you think about that team there in New Jersey and Los Angeles, the amount of Pro Bowlers that they produced.
Yeah, they did a lot. And I know everybody has their own opinion about is there too much football, is there not enough? I think if you can have employment, there's never such thing, well, that's too much employment, that's too many jobs. If you create the opportunity, people will show up and have a chance to get to work. And even it works for broadcast, Big C. It works for people in media that want to do news and write stories. It works for people who are in distribution, for media distribution. It works for TV companies. A lot of people benefit when a pro team opens up a new sport, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you look at the number of job openings, Charlton. I mean, think about how many players get cut from the NFL every year after training camp.
Yeah.
And so now they're going to have opportunities for employment. Not only that, it can become a feeder league once again for the NFL, where players that you didn't get a chance to look at during the preseason or training camp because they may have had a slight injury, Charlton, now they can go play an active season in the USFL and have an opportunity to move on to greater things. We have the Canadian Football League that does that also. They even have a spring football league that's playing now, Charlton, where players go out and compete.
Yeah.
Football it is an addictive sport, Charlton. People are junkies when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And it's never enough. Because when you think about these universities, these alumni and the fans that have grown up watching these players through high school and college, Charlton, they still want to continue to watch them.
They still want to continue to watch them. And some guys still wear their Letterman jackets when they haven't set that Letterman jacket in 30 years, but that's all fair level war. But I wish the league nothing but the best for whatever it does. It gives people a chance to have income. College sports, Big C, college football players and college basketball players, just based on what we're talking about, would you believe they're the only athletes are recruited to make a university money? That's the sole purpose of it. They say, well, we want you to get an education. That's true, but it's really for the money. If you don't make the team, or they'll cut you. They say they want you to get an education. If you don't keep up your GPA, then they can suspend you or put you on academic probation, Big C. But if you miss a tackle, they don't cut you from the team necessarily. It's a lot of people say there are a lot of similarities as Jim Crow and slavery as they reach out and grab mostly predominantly the African-American student athletes saying, hey, you come to play for us. We're going to help you get to the pro leagues, Big C. It's not always the truth, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it is akin to slavery when you look at college athletics, especially football and basketball. Think about sharecropping. There's a direct parallel between sharecropping and being a college basketball and football player. Yes, Charlton, there's always some that can pay off their debt and move on. And we see that when they can acquire a small plot of land.
Yeah.
But the majority of these people, Charlton, spend their entire tenure trying to work off their debt and never getting their head above water. Those are the people who don't make professional teams, Charlton.
Yeah.
So when you think about the amount of revenue that the owner of the land made when they were sharecropping it out to former slaves, Charlton, and slaves, they were getting nothing but revenue. They turned all the profit without doing any of the work.
Yeah.
When you look at these universities over the decades, Charlton, especially since integration, when they started bringing in all these black players from these historically black colleges where they would normally go to, then you need to come over here because you're going to make us money.
Yeah.
Branch Rickey started that crap back when he brought Jackie Robinson into Major League Baseball. That was sharecropping also. They said, well, hey, these Negroes got money over here.
Yeah.
Let's take their money from them. Let's take some of the best players that they have. We'll call them into the major league and say that they can come bring their nickels and dimes and sit out in the bleacher seats that we normally have empty with the seagulls sitting out there.
Yeah.
That happened in Major League Baseball at first.
Yeah.
And then during desegregation, Charlton, major college football saw the same thing, basketball.
Yeah.
Hey, if we bring some of these black athletes in, we can invite the black fans in that we normally would not let into the arena.
Yeah.
They can sit up in those cheap seats in the end zone, Charlton. And that's what they did. So as people want to say that these athletes are getting a tremendous opportunity, they got better opportunities in the historical black colleges that we talked about a couple days. Nobody from a historical black college got drafted in the last NBA draft. Nobody from a historical black college got drafted last year in the NBA draft, the NFL or the NBA. So who is really benefiting from the labor of these black athletes?
Yeah, it's the guys that have the bank account. They're usually Caucasian. We know it's a system that's set up for them to do whatever they can to take as much effort and free labor out of anybody as possible. Some of the news around the baseball universe, Diamondbacks analyst, we talked about it yesterday. He's taking a leave of absence after some insensitive remarks, and maybe he should. Big C, Cincinnati Red slugger. Major League Baseball says that Major League Baseball doesn't care about pitchers using foreign substances to put where in their backside or just throw the pitch faster. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, they've always done that. They dipped on the bill of their cap. They went inside the belt buckle, Charlton, and even picked up the rosin. But baseball has always been doctoring the baseball. I remember back when I was a kid, and I would go to games, Charlton, and you could never understand what they were dipping into. But as I got older and they started broadcasting more games in color in the 70s, you could see how the colors would change on the bill of the cap and even on parts of the uniform, Charlton, that the pitcher kept touching all the time.
Yeah, the Detroit Lions defensive lineman suspended for violating NFL substance abuse policy. Johnny Manziel said he made a decent living selling autographs at Texas A&M, Big C. And James Madison University, they shock. Number 1, Oklahoma and Women College World Series opener is all fair and level. Well, we should see some good NBA action tonight. I wish the best teams the best, and I'm pulling for the Lakers to win tonight because I want to see King James do more. I think if the Lakers fall tonight, the NBA ratings will drop at least out of the city of Los Angeles, the second largest city in the United States. And you can't have the Lakers and the Clippers get knocked out the first round. It's all fair and level war. Will Dollar Dame keep Portland alive for just one more game? It's all fair and level war. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, it's an intriguing thought about the Pac-12 football games this year when it comes to college football, Charlton. Are they going to have to put a muzzle on the mouth of that USC horse, Charlton, or will he go out there and fight people? You know how something when it's high-strung, what they might do. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders, Charlton. I don't know if horses have rabies, but they'll have a needle ready just in case.
Yeah, I feel bad for Mr. Baffert's horse. And you know, they call it, it's all fair level war, but a horse doesn't know what you're putting in his butt. People sometimes know and sometimes they don't, but you can always know every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, rise and shine. Every day, rise and shine. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.